What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to y'all with that rundown on analysisplayground.com and on YouTube. We're going to talk about all the teams in the NBA, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the pros and the cons of each teams during this point of the season and throughout the season. We're going to start off with my number one team in the NBA, the Boston Celtics. Have been the number one team since November, and they continue to cling on to that number one spot. They're a great defensive team. They're deep. They spread the floor. They got two guys that can take over the game, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in close. We done seen Jaylen Brown step up in overtimes over the last month. We done seen Jason Tatum still average over 30 points per game. They're unstoppable sometimes offensively. They're a team that can really blitz you, really come at you, and really make it tough and difficult to win. I'm proud of what my Celtics have done. They took what they have done and learned from last year, and Missoula has really coached them and has really pushed them and really has asked for them to do more and to do better. And we have had some rough patches this season, but we didn't get too low on it. We stayed together. We didn't point the finger. We didn't get in each other's faces this year. We just challenged each other to get better, challenge each other to get back to where we was. And I felt like even when we lost games, even when we lost a couple in a row, we never got too depressed, too angry at each other, and never got to a point where we really started doubting each other. And I feel like that just shows you the difference between last year and this team. This team is more confident. They have more swagger. They feel like they have accomplished more and they have more to do. And they feel like they have enough to get it done against any team. Now, of course, you're going to have rough patches in there, sprinkled in there throughout the season, but for our team, they have stayed together. You have to give credit to the coaching staff. You have to give credit to the organization. You have to give credit to the players. Everybody wants to be a Celtic. Everybody believes in this team. Everybody believes that they can get it done. That's on this roster, and that's what you like to see. They're still trying to make another move at the trade deadline to increase their chances because they're hungry. They really want to win banner number 18, championship number 18. And I believe that they can get it done. Now it's just about will they get it done? That's their only question. They have been that consistent and that good for majority of the season. The question only to them now is, can they stay healthy and can they win the title? The Milwaukee Bucks, they just now got Chris Middleton back. Drew Holiday has been excelente all season, playing good defense, getting to the basket, showing his new three-point step back that he's been working on. Giannis has been an MVP conversation all season, dominating, getting to the basket, experimenting with the jump shot, hasn't really been successful with it, but he's finding a little bit of room to play with it. Brook Lopez has been in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. And then you look at the depth. They have guys that can shoot, guys that can score, guys that like Joe Ingles that got back health that can play make. And then you have guys that are younger that still trying to contribute like MarJon. And this team has the defense. They have the size. They have the quickness. They have the speed. But they seem like they're getting a little older. The injuries come more when you get older. You're not as durable as you used to be. That has been a concern for the Bucks. They also have issues shooting the basketball. Can they shoot the three enough? Can they shoot the mid-range enough to beat teams like the Celtics that are consistent offensively and can really take over games with their stars and with their role players? Their role players not as good as creating off the dribble and creating their own shot like the ones from the Celtics, but their defense has been great, and Giannis has been one of the most unstoppable players in the league, and he will get to the free throw line at will. Even if you try to stop him from getting to the paint, he will at least get points that way. So I like what I've seen out of the Bucks. They're definitely the third best team in the NBA, and they're in the conversation for championship talk. I think they do need to make a move because I do think they're a piece away from the Celtics and the Nuggets. The Sixers have worked their way up. They had a lot of injuries to Maxey, injuries to Harden, injury to Joel Embiid, and other guys on this roster. They're finally getting healthy. They finally getting on the same page. You have to give credit to Doc Rivers for coaching this team up, getting them ready and prepared to go, even when they had less talent. As they gain more talent, they start becoming more dominant, more tougher to guard, more tougher to defend. Harden has accepted his role as a playmaker slash scorer, and he has really excelled in that role, leading the league in assists with 11. Joel Embiid has been one of the most dominant regular season big men in NBA history, being able to get 30 points per game, has been able to extend that range, has also been able to get the scoring title for the second season probably this year, and I didn't see that coming from Joel Embiid. But he has shown that he has continued to grow and he has continued to be hungry. You look at Tobias Harris, he looks better, more confident, but will he perform in the playoffs is his biggest question. You look at the fact that they have other guys on this roster like Niang, and they have other shooters on this team. You want a little bit more out of PJ Tucker offensively, but Thibault, he's going to be a question. Will they move him? Will they keep him? He hasn't been the same guy that they needed him to be because of his offense. And then you look at the rest of the team, like Tyrese Maxey accepting his role, coming off the bench, getting to the basket, scoring at will, taking over games. He looks good. I'm proud of what I have seen out of Maxey and of his maturity. He has been a big part of what this team does and has really been crucial to that bench because they need him and they need a pop, and he has been that guy for them. The Brooklyn Nets, 31-19, KD goes down. They was able to survive so far. They won their last two. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. Kyrie Irving showing that he can still score at will. He can still facilitate. Ben Simmons has been a no-show in some games, but has looked decent throughout the season defensively. His rebounding has been decent. His playmaking has been exceptional. He hasn't been exactly what they have needed, but he has been something different that gives them a little twist to what they can do offensively and defensively. Nicholas Claxton seems like he has evolved his game and has become more well-rounded offensively and has become more encouraged defensively against better competition. I feel like Royce O'Neal has been a great 3-and-D guy for them. Exactly what they have traded for is what they have gotten. I think that that's important in that trade. I feel like their bench has underperformed a little bit. You want to see a little bit more out of those guys because they have been in and out the lineup and they haven't performed. Joe Harris has been a shell of himself. You want to see more out of him in the future, especially if he's going to be a starter. And KD has to get back healthy because his team isn't that far from getting second place. If they can get second place or third place, they have a better chance of making it to the conference finals. But it's going to be tougher if they're fourth or fifth. They want to at least have home court advantage, and they have that ability. They have a little bit of a cushion right now on Cleveland. I think they can sustain it throughout the season, and it's going to be tough for them to do it. But that's part of the game. Cleveland, they have been young, have made a lot of mistakes with injuries. They have made a lot of mistakes on the court, getting into close games, not being able to close certain games, having size disadvantages with a small back court, having a front court that can't score the ball as efficiently as you want when it comes to being able to score outside of the paint area. And they still having a little bit of spacing issues. But to me, they're still a great team that's one piece away from really being a legitimate contender. You can put them in that conversation because it's a lot of wings that's on display right now that's trying to get moved. And if Cleveland can pick up just one of them, it will just change the trajectory of this team. And this team has already been showing that they're dynamic, they're real flary. They can really make a lot of shots. They can really make points in bunches. They can get hot from three. They can get hot from the field. And they have guys that can finish around the basket and cause havoc and chaos. So I like what I see out of Cleveland. They just have to defend better. They just have to play smarter. And they just have to play more with each other. I feel they can get a little bit, ISO-y too, and that can give their offense a little stagnant at times. The Miami Heat, they finally got healthy. That was their biggest key. Jimmy Butler needed to be healthy. Bam needed to play better. And I feel like Bam has been playing at an all-star level, his best season to date. Jimmy Butler is having a Jimmy Butler type of season. Tyler Hero has been about what you expect. And Kyle Lowry has been a disappointment. Duncan Robinson has been a disappointment. Matt Strus has been okay. I just don't really know what you get out of Miami. They defend, they play hard, they really are well coached, and they really are getting pushed to their limit. Are they just a 6 seed in the Eastern Conference at this point, and they're just pretenders? They are 2, 3 pieces away from being a serious team in the NBA. And I think that that's about what they are. They're a team that you have to respect because they will come and beat you. They will out rebound you. They will out attack you, and they will outsmart you if you don't play the right way and you don't come with your full chest up and your chin up. they will knock you out. But other than that, this team is a team that lacks a lot of talent and lacks spacing sometimes, and they can be really stagnant too offensively, and it can be tough and ugly to watch them play. But they play more of 80s, 90s style basketball, which is still winning caliber basketball because you have to play the good, the bad, and the ugly and the great in the NBA, and they can compete with all those teams and beat them. But now they've finally been able to do it consistently. They won 7-3 in their last 10, and they won their last one. And I think that this is about their ceiling for this particular season. The New York Knicks, I love what I've seen out of them. They're 27-25. They're about a middling team. There's nothing that you can expect more from them. They defend, they compete. They have Brunson, they have Barrett, they have Randall, which is solid players, not superstars or game changing, franchise changing players. I think Brunson has brought exactly what you expect: scoring, penetration, probing, setting guys up for easy opportunities. Randall has continued to be a dominant player, scoring from the perimeter, scoring from the mid range, getting his rebounds. And RJ Barrett still hasn't got to where he needs to be offensively. They still missing that wing scorer. McBride is not that guy. Quentin Grimes is not that guy. They still need that wing that can score and defend and do a little bit more for them. We'll see if they're able to get that eventually. But this is the type of season we expected them to have, and they have been able to live up to that hype. So this is a solid season. One of the more disappointing teams are the Atlanta Hawks. They was already a playoff team last year. They had to be in the play-in. You want to get better. You don't want to take a step back. Getting DeJounte was supposed to push them forward. I feel like he has done an exceptional job fitting in and doing the best that he could. I don't think Trae Young has grown and played that much better than he has previously done. Same with John Collins. I feel like Clint Capella is what he is, and I feel like Nate McMillan has gotten the best out of a Trae Young team getting to the conference finals. They just haven't been able to replicate that so far, and it has just been a tough season for them, being injured, not being able to get everybody on the same page offensively and defensively, still trying to go through this season, trying to win games while having those guys in and out the lineup, and still trying to find a way to find an identity and a play style that can really change the culture of this team. It's tough to do when guys are not in the lineup and guys are not fully committed to what they're trying to get done from the coaching staff perspective. And I feel like this team has had a lot of insecurities and immaturities as players, and it just really been hurting this team growth. And it's just unfortunate that they have to go through that. But this team is still young. They still have a lot of young pieces that can grow in the future and develop into something special. If this is not the year, maybe in the future, this team can grow as a core and become better. The Washington Wizards are about what you thought, a team that will be in the playing conversation. Bradley Beal hasn't been that guy. Kyle Kuzma has had his best season. Porzingis looked more fresher than ever and has been healthier than ever. And this team doesn't defend well. They doesn't score that great. So they're in a situation where if you're not going to defend well, you're not going to score well, and you're not going to be dominant in any aspect of the game, you're just a mediocre team, and that's where they find themselves at. And then the Indiana Pacers, they're young, they're still learning. They have some new pieces that they're trying to integrate and trying to figure out their play style and their game. I don't really expect much out of Indiana just because this was a team that was supposed to be retooling / rebuilding. They don't know which one they really want to do. They want to re-bring Miles Turner back and keep him happy. They gave him an extension. We don't really know what's going to happen with him in the future. I feel like Tyrese Halliburton has been a bright spot for this team, being able to facilitate, space the floor, and score, and also give a little bit of penetration. I feel like Buddy Hield has accepted his role as a spacer. Ben Mathurin has been pretty solid off that bench, giving them some firepower. I feel like they're a young team that needs to continue to grow and learn their pros and their cons and try to iron them out to the best of their ability. The Chicago Bulls, um, they have been a disappointment this year. They're 23-27. They can't beat the bad teams or the good teams, and they're not the greatest defensive team. They're a little predictable offensively. They're easy to guard. They're easy to defend because they don't switch it up or mix it up enough. And this team has really been one of the worst teams to play against sometimes because they can step it up because they have guys that really thrive in big moments and three big situations, and they have some star power, so they can still be tough to beat when they're flowing and going. But their offense is just not where it needs to be, and their defense isn't either. And this team really does need another piece to really separate them. It's kind of unfortunate they don't have Lonzo Ball because he would have been a huge difference maker for them, and especially because they have nobody to replace them in return. So they just stuck with a guy that can't really contribute at all that could have really helped them, or they could have got rid of that contract and got somebody that could have, and that would have really probably gave them a couple more wins. But they're not fully out of it as they're only one game away from being back in the playing tournament. So their season ain't a complete failure, but it still is a disappointment because they should have been better, especially because they was a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference last year. And the Raptors are the same. They really have lost their offensive identity. They don't have nobody that can get buckets outside of Siakam and Van Fleet, and their offense has really become tough to watch because they just struggle to make shots from the perimeter and the outside, and sometimes they just run out of gas. And defensively, they have the length and the size, but they don't have the strength and the length in the center position to stop the penetration and the finishing and the ability to collapse the defense and get shots up as the opponents have been using to really destroy them. I feel like the Raptors are pieces away, but they need a superstar that can really, carry that offense, and they just missing that. And it's just tough to watch sometimes Raptor games just because they just look like a mess on both ends of the court, and it's mostly because of personnel that they have on the roster, and they need to change and shake up some of these things so they can be more of a balanced team and more of a better team that fits, what they're trying to do and have an identity instead of just throwing a bunch of long rangy guys on the court at the same time that can't shoot or score consistently. And Orlando Magic has the same problem. They have a bunch of young guys that don't know how to facilitate, that don't know how to really play the game of basketball at the highest level. They winning off talent. They have a lot of guys that are long, that's rangy, that's reachy, that's tall, that's still trying to develop their skills, still trying to learn their game, still trying to learn how to play defense, still trying to learn how to communicate with each other on and off the court, especially defensively, and still trying to figure out what's their strengths offensively and how to extend their game and their range. This is a learning team, a growth team, trying to figure out what they have, what they need to find that's expendable, and what they need to keep. It's not really much to say about the Magic because they have been pretty decent for what they have on their roster. But, they have the rookie of the year in Paulo Banchero. He has been exactly what they have expected or more, in my personal opinion. And I have more of that coming up in the next video. The Charlotte Hornets, they have really been a disappointment. This team goes as far as LaMelo takes them. This team has a lot of pieces that they probably should move off of just because they should just go younger. I know it's going to take them even more years to really build this roster up if they do that. But LaMelo is so young that they can afford to do it. Plus, they need more lottery picks with high upside to really go with them instead of veterans that's trying to help them win now when they're not really ready to win now. They took a huge step backwards from where they was last year. I think it's time to go into a rebuilding phase for them, and they really showing it because LaMelo can't really stay healthy, and if he can't stay healthy, the franchise just go all the way down. And I feel like this is a good year to show. Maybe the sign is showing them that they should be rebuilding instead of trying to win and make it to the playoffs this year. Their record is just too bad. Maybe they should just, you know, bring it in this season. And the Pistons, no Cade, that's their best player. He's been out for the season. This is a lost season for the Pistons. There's nothing they can do. Just let their young guys develop and let them play and let them grow their bodies, let them grow the IQ of the game, let them grow as persons and men, and also just let them get experience out there. It's going to be ugly basketball to watch, but at least they're learning something this season. But it has been a big disappointment because Cade is their biggest piece, and he is the franchise. And Ivy hasn't looked that great either, and that's a disappointment because you thought he'll have his play accelerated because of the ball being in his hands more, and he's going to be more of a primary decision maker. But it didn't really happen. And for the Western Conference, the Nuggets have been the standard in the West. Jokic has been the MVP to me this season. This guy has been dominating the rebounds, the assists, taking over the games. Aaron Gordon has been the best glue guy in the entire league. You look at the fact that Caldwell Pope has been great athletically and giving space. Michael Porter Jr. giving space and rebounding the ball pretty decently. And you look at the fact that this team has been solid defensively and they have good depth with Bones Highlands and those guys. This team is a complete roster and they have a dominant superstar who knows how to make guys better. The Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant has really done a good job of penetrating and finding guys and really taking over games and trying to carry this team to the best of his ability. He's become more of a team-oriented player. He believes in his team. He trusts in his teammates, and he feels like he can get it done with this particular roster. Desmond Bane has finally came back and got healthy. He looks decent. You look at Jaren Jackson in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, rebounding the ball, blocking and getting steals and controlling that paint and really rotating and switching and even coming over to help. He just been great and all over the place defensively. And even Steven Adams, just knowing his game, knowing his role and not getting in the way and letting these guys play hard. And then the depth. They have a lot of young guys that plays like veterans. And that's something that helps this team because they can grow in the future and this team can grow together and really continue to get through the growing pains and the learning curves. This team could be dangerous in the future and could probably win multiple championships. And you look at the Sacramento Kings, this has been a surprise team coming into the season. Nobody thought Sacramento would be third at any point of the season, but you got to give credit to De'Aaron Fox. He has done a great job of penetrating, using his ability to get to the rim at will, but he's been taking his time, getting to the mid-range, getting to the three, playing off the ball more. Sabonis has been a great pick-and-roll partner, a great roller, a great facilitator, a great rebounder, a great mid-range scorer, and a great finisher. And then you look at the weapons. Keegan Murray has played better. Harrison Barnes has played better. That Trey Lyles has played better. And you just look at this team as a team that's very dangerous. And they can really score, can really break down the defense, and they can really shoot the basketball. The Clippers, Kawhi Leonard looks outstanding now. He's running, he's moving, he's shooting, he's scoring the way he used to. Got good bounce, got good fluidity in his shots. Paul George doesn't really look as interested in this season, but he's still having a pretty good season for his standards. You look at the role players on this roster, they're deep. They can switch. They can guard decently, and they have decent guard play to go alongside Kawhi Leonard. Paul George and Zubac has been decent in the paint. This team hasn't been crazy, scary, or hasn't really had any crazy games, but they show that they're a respectable team that you have to go out there and beat because they're not going to be an easy out. But other than that, this team is decent. The Warriors finally got it figured out. They're finally getting healthier. Steph is back. Clay is playing at an all-time high. When it comes to coming back from the injury, he's finally finding his groove. He's still not the same Clay that he used to be, but he's the closest thing to it. Draymond looks a little older and a little slower, but that just means they need more help for him. He's done what he can do for his age, and I feel like Andrew Wiggins need to do more offensively, but he hasn't really looked the same since he's been injured. He was an all-star caliber player before the injury, hasn't really been that after the injury. That's a problem. Jordan Poole looks good scoring. He's getting to the paint. He's getting the floaters going. He's getting the threes going. He's really been in charge of the offense a lot more this season and has looked pretty decent. And their bench, DiVincenzo has scored the ball pretty well, has been a factor. Kuminga had some good and bad games throughout the season. He hasn't been consistent. James Wiseman has still been unplayable. This team still has been a mess, but they have been able to figure out enough. They're a piece away from being a contender, maybe a center, from being right back into that, playoff team that can really win it all. Especially when you got Steph, Clay, and Draymond, they'll figure out under the tutelage of Steve Kerr. They're always dangerous. You always got to have respect for the champions, and they always find a way to win games for the most part, especially at home. This is a team that you have to put out because they're not going to be easy to take out. So you got to respect them for that. The Dallas Mavericks have been a 500-ish team They have really been able to be decent all season. Luka has did his job, has been an MVP candidate again this year. Rebounding, scoring the ball has been phenomenal. Getting a bunch of 50-point games this season, has been able to take over games, been absolutely unstoppable. His teammates been able to knock down shots. Christian Wood looks good, being able to score from the perimeter, being able to score in the paint, being able to knock down free throws decently. I feel like the Mavericks is a solid team. They're going to be a tough out. The Suns have been dealing with a lot of injuries. Mainly Devin Booker has missed a lot of time. Chris Paul has looked better but wasn't great the entire season. DeAndre Ayton hasn't been that force that they needed him to be in the paint. He has games where he looks great. He has games where he look okay. And then you have Mikal Bridges. This is his best season to me. He's been scoring. He has been needed to score more. They require him to do more this season, especially after extension. And I feel like he has been solid for them. I feel like their bench has been good. Damian Lee has been pretty good. I feel like Torrey Craig has been solid. You want to see them move off of Jay Crowder to get a piece that can help them. Cam Johnson has been pretty good since he's been back. He's been a big part of what they do. It hurted them not having him, but now they have him back. He has shown that they missed him and they needed him. Now they just have to get healthy and make a run on a win streak. They already won 2 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10. So I think that that's something that they need to focus on, is getting back to playing together, getting back to loving the game, and getting back to loving it together. And that's the key to them. The Minnesota Timberwolves have had injury problems too. Gobert has been out. Towns has been out. Russell has played better over the last month. Anthony Edwards has had his best month stretch to me, and the team has been winning too. On top of that, Towns is coming back. They really need to find a way to put him in that offense and have him be a better defender and shoot the ball better from three will also help. The spacing on this team and having another guy that can get his own bucket will really help this team. This team I never completely gave up on because they added a lot of new pieces, and they added a huge piece that really changes the trajectory of this team defensively, and it takes time to figure those things out. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a process, and I feel like a lot of people was just frustrated with the Timberwolves, but it's just part of the game. When you make a big move like that, it's not really going to change, overnight. It's going to take a lot of months and a lot of years to figure this situation out. And we're going to have to see what they do with their personnel at the trade deadline and after this season to really see if they can win with Gobert in that paint. The Utah Jazz, they have got off to a great start. They have come back to around a 500 team. I feel like they'll be around here anyway. They're not the greatest defensive team. They don't have the greatest scorers. They don't have the greatest playmakers, but they have a bunch of guys that want to compete and love playing basketball, and they open to being coached, and that just makes them a tough team to beat. They're competitive, and that's all they need to be at this point. Plus, they got a lot of picks, so they can really, pick and choose what they want to do and still be successful in the future. They're a team that got their cake and eat it too, as they can still be a playoff team this year while still having some lottery picks and the ability to move up in the draft to get who they want and put them with a decent core. The New Orleans Pelicans was at the top. Now they fell all the way to the bottomish area, 26 and 26. No Zion, who was an MVP candidate at one point. Ingram has been a little inconsistent when it comes to health. CJ even missed some games. He was a big force of why they was winning games. When Ingram and Zion was out, he's finally got back on the court. This team has just had way too many injuries. They still do have depth. They still do have scoring, but they need their best players available. The best availability is availability, and they ain't been available enough, and that's what you need professionals to be. You need them to show up and be able to do their job for your business to be successful, and if they don't, it's going to plummet, and that's what happened with the Pelicans. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 24 and 26. They have had a respectable season. Nobody expected them to be great or amazing. You expected them to be okay, especially when Chet Holmgren was going to miss the entire season. It just meant that their season was going to be another mediocre one, and that's basically what they have been. Shea has been outstanding, getting to the basket, playing through a lot of tough situations, and being the man enough to handle them and not run and cry about the situation, because days will get better in Oklahoma, and he has already had playoff days there. I feel like Dort has been a little bit of a disappointment. I feel like Jalen Williams has been good. Giddey has been good. and this team just need a little bit more talent to really be more competitive. But that's just obvious. Portland, I don't really know what they're trying to do. They have a decent team, but not a great or amazing team, which means they're going to be in the playing conversation. The problem is the West is so deep that they have to be better than what they really wanted to be this season, and you actually wonder to yourself, what are they supposed to be? They just supposed to be a decent team around Dame. If that's the case, they might actually miss the playoffs because of that. Because I don't really see them getting one of those 10 spots unless a major injury happened again to some of those teams. But even then, you still got to look at the teams like the Lakers having LeBron, AD, and then after the Rui trade, they have looked a lot better. Plus, they have got a lot of their talent back through injuries, and they have played better together. Now they just have to play, you know, a lot more games together to get the familiarity together, and then they need to get their defense back, where it needs to be. And AD just needs to get more healthy because he was in the MVP conversation too. And LeBron has really showed that he hasn't slowed down that much. So they're still a threat to be a playing team too, especially because they was able to withstand such a rough start and still been able to put themselves in the conversation of 3 games out, and then they're in the playoffs too conversation, and then they just got to win the play-in tournament to get in. The Spurs, they're rebuilding. They're supposed to be bad. Keldon Johnson looks decent. Um, I feel like he's their best player. Devin Vassell has shown great improvement offensively, not as much defensively. We have to see what they're going to do with Yaka. He's a solid center that can rebound, got a little bit of a post game, can really defend the paint really decently. But if they lose him, they're going to really be in a rebuild, and they're going to free fall to more losses. They already lost their last 6. They're 1-9 in their last 10. This has been one of the worst seasons in San Antonio history. And then the Rockets, they don't defend, they don't play together. They have a bunch of guys going out there scoring and putting up numbers, and that's about it. None of their young guys have looked like they have grown or developed significantly. They all look about the same, even physically, and that's not a good sign for this team. Şengün has looked like their best player because he can rebound, he can facilitate, and he can score in a little semi variety of ways. And you need a big right now that can really impact the game like that. And Şengün has shown upside, but he's just so bad defensively. Jalen Green has shown that he's a dynamic scorer. He can shoot the mid range, he can shoot the three, he's speedy getting to the basket, but he struggles defensively. He struggles with efficiency. And Jabari Smith is the same. He can't create his own shot. He can't space the floor consistently. So he really has been a terrible player for them too. But he's only a rookie. You just have hope that they continue to put the work in, they continue to love to play with each other, and they can grow and develop in the future. Other than that, that's the end of the video. Everybody loves the rundown. Hopefully, I gave y'all in-depth analysis to the best of my ability on all the teams in the league. Continue to like, to continue to subscribe, continue to share. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis signing out.